So welcome to the latest episode of Gallifrey Pirate Radio. I am your host, David Beauchamp. I am joined by
Angela Pritchett
and Drew Meyer.
And this week, we finally, after a long break, thanks to Moffat, getting to talk about new episodes of Doctor Who, 7B, where we have JLC as companion proper, or Clara, as her character is called. But we are going to be reviewing for you today, this afternoon, depending on when you watch this, the Bells of St. John and the Rings of
Akhaten.
Because it totally just blinked on me. So we'll start with the bells.
Good, solid plan.
Yeah, do it in order here.
Episode.
So we'll start with Angela here. What, just your first impressions, what did you like about the bells?
I enjoyed it. This season, which I kind of was going to say this after we started talking about the second one, so far the way the season has started off, it seems to have a more childlike wonder to it, more so than previous years.
When you're saying season, are you talking
Oh, sorry,
7B?
7B.
Okay.
Sorry, 7B so far.
It feels like a new season.
Yeah, it feels like a new season, but it seems to like just the way the episodes are, because 7A we had more of with Rory and Amy and River. This just seems to have more of like a childlike wonder to it, almost like Clara is the Doctor's nanny.
And she's Mary Poppins.
Yes, very much so. Just waiting for her to pull out.
And I think also it feels a little bit more upbeat too.
Very fast paced so far. Very fast paced.
Well, think about it this: we have this kind of pall over our heads with season 7A because we knew that Rory and Amy were gonna disappear at the end.
We were dreading that last episode. At least I was.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter how you splice it up; they're going to be gone at the end of it. So you have 5 episodes where you're dreading the last episode. So with this one, it's a new beginning. So it's not an end; it's a beginning. It's a really interesting idea. It's very Moffat to set a season where the first half of the season is an end of something. There's a Christmas special in
the beginning was the first episode was a beginning.
Yeah.
We met Osmond. I'll let you finish your thought. I'm sorry.
Well, and here's the thing. When we start dealing with time and Moffat, we have no idea if necessarily, Asylum of the Daleks is the beginning or an end or a middle or, and it's one of those things where, damn you, Moffat, you've changed the way we've watched Doctor Who, and I'm not sure I appreciate it anymore.
Well, I'll say this. I'm not sure if you read, if Tennant would have stayed one more season, how it all would have began. It would have been him at the end of his regeneration, and then he pops up again and meets Amelia right at the beginning. So he likes playing with time and stuff.
That's the new Doctor Who magazine.
Yeah, where they're talking about what the season would have been like. He said it would have followed fairly what he would have done as it proceeded, but he knew Matt would be that Dave would be regenerating, and then he would start with the regeneration, though he wouldn't realize it until the end. I have to agree. This definitely does feel like a brand new season. I mean, it feels more like a season or Series 8 than a 7B, and I've really so far enjoyed what we've gotten so far. But let's delve further into this first episode of the Bells. I mean, what did you really like? Like specific examples of what you liked about this episode.
I like how he planted little things that made, like, from the start. Like, that night, people were going, who's the shop girl? Who's this little things that everyone was like, no, wait. Like, it's like the fans were just sitting there going, okay, he's got something in there for us. So I liked that because it kind of made you think a little bit more, even though just following story. I love the book. So, with Amelia Williams.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the audio because they've released audios.
Well, they've released the Kindle version of the book because everyone that saw it was like, I'm going to start with chapter 11.
I'm going to start at the beginning. I have downloaded it. I just have to finish up the book I'm reading now. I don't want to stop the one I'm reading.
And the nice thing about these so far, because I've gotten all of them in audio, they're novellas. Mm-hmm. They read fast, they read quick, and so far each one has had an audio adaptation about 6 months later. So I could wait 6 months to listen to it.
Yeah, so far nothing I've heard has said that you have to read the book to appreciate.
So far with all three of them, you haven't had to read the book. It just adds to the universe.
Not having read it either, I like the cover a lot. I like the reveal. I like to see Amelia Williams. I thought that was very sweet. It's obviously about a little girl and her two boy explorers. So there's a Rory and there's a doctor following behind her as she leads the way. And I think that's really cute. It's called Summer Falls. I like the falls part. I was confused at first. I thought it said Winter Falls, and I thought, oh my gosh, because the winter is coming and the fall of the 11th. I thought, are they foreshadowing that much? But again, this goes to what we were talking about with watching Doctor Who. Moffat's run on it has made it you can't just sit back and watch it. You have to analyze it, which is how I watch television anyway. But I don't know, I just kind of want to watch the show. There's so much. There's so many. I'm sure red herrings towards the end of it. So.
Is there anything you liked specifically about this episode?
Tons of stuff I liked specifically. I really liked the monks, and I love the reason for the title, the Bells of St. John. I mean, I think we had even mentioned we knew that St. John was the St. John ambulance, and as soon as the phone starts ringing, I think you and I went. Oh well, no, you already knew. I went.
But honestly, when I heard the things, I was like, brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. I thought that was a brilliant use of the title and of the phone.
I will say one thing I did really, really like. Her reaction to the inside of the TARDIS was so funny. Like her facial expression. She's like, she's bending down, looking at everything before they go onto the plane was hilarious. Now she's still sipping her tea, but then she's like.
Yeah, and talking about about how frantic this season it has been very fast. I mean, she had a very fast introduction to the TARDIS. And this is kind of interesting. Just now thinking about it, her very first appearance on the show, she doesn't get to go into the TARDIS. Her second appearance on the show, she gets a long, look around the TARDIS, outside of the TARDIS, and then I'm talking about her various incarnations from Asylum to. The Snowman to this one, where this time her introduction in TARDIS is really, really fast.
And in one take. I mean, there's some good editing work. And I will say this. Let's just start from the beginning. I think it's Colm McCarthy is the director of this one. I don't think he's done a Doctor Who, and I could be wrong about that, so I apologize. I was really impressed with the direction. It was really well done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everything about the first episode was really outstanding, I think.
The sound wasn't, but I had some problems with some of the sound and some of the music. Not that I didn't like the music.
Some of the wah, 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 when they're riding the bike annoyed me so much. That song was playing when they're riding on that bike.
I think someone described it as Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh my gosh.
Before we get into stuff we don't like, we'll get back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll focus on what we
the direction.
liked.
Yeah, I really like the direction. I liked the setup. I like knowing that since we've kind of gotten an idea of who Clara is going to be from the first two appearances.
Yep.
We didn't have to. I mean, there's still. I don't think they actually become a companion and really get into the adventure of it until about 17 minutes into the show. But I think what's really special about this is the Doctor has done, this is a relationship is very different from any other companion that I remember seeing is the Doctor's pursuing her. It's very different from everything else where, it's like, oh, I want to travel with you, but the Doctor has a reason because he doesn't understand what's going on. He's lost her. Let's say he really lost her once. He's technically lost her twice, but he wasn't really aware of her in Asylum. He lost her once, and I think he's really bugged by that, and I think he actually sees her as something precious because there's a lot of affection towards Clara, a lot of kissing and a lot of touching. There's a definite physical contact that's not there with any other companions, with the exception of the pawns towards the last couple episodes, where there's a lot more. I don't want to lose you, which I think lends credence to the fact that he knew that they were probably going to die. Maybe, who knows? But yeah, so her on the stairs after she's been absorbed by the spoonheads, and just there's a tenderness between them that I really appreciated. So, something else you like?
kind of look at me now. Oh my goodness. Okay, more stuff that I like.
Well, I mean, you don't have to force it if there isn't.
Well, there was a lot that I liked. It's just I said all the stuff that.
I mean, what really stood out? I mean, past what you've already said, does anything else really stand out that was like, wow?
Right
That's
away.
cool.
The
I'll probably think about something right after someone says.
The banter between Clara and the Doctor is really excellent, and
Well, Moffat told us they played well off each other.
I was listening to an interview with her a couple days ago, and they were saying that when she first auditioned, they asked her to audition for 3 different roles, but they wouldn't explain why. And then when they called her back, it was just her and Matt. Like, there was no director. They were reading lines and playing with one another, and they filmed it. And she's depending on how Moffat's scripts and everyone else's scripts treat her, knowing that she's going to be back for the 8th season, I really think that Jenna Louise Coleman as Clara is really going to have some staying power as far as like the history of companions is concerned. I really think she's going to go down as being a favorite companion, depending on how the story takes place, because just from people I've talked to, there's an instant affinity. She's got a really cool story. The relationship is really good. She doesn't have that, I don't want to talk ill of the dead, but Amy's character is kind of damaged goods in a way, just because, you know, of everything that happened in her life prior to the second coming of the Doctor. And, you know, her treatment of Rory, I think, is a sore point for some people, and a bossy character. Anyway, not to talk about her, but I think that as far as modern characters are concerned, I really think Clara's going to have is going to go the distance and is really going to stick with people.
Cool. Okay, because we've already touched on it. You guys have already touched on it a little. What didn't you like about this episode of Doctor Who? Of the bells?
The music.
Music. Well, I won't say it's Maurice Gold's best. I didn't mind the ba 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 ba.
It was too distracting for me.
I know. Okay, distracting is a really good way of describing it.
It was too distracting for me, and I'm a music person too. So normally music doesn't distract me; it adds to everything for me. Unless it's just that, I don't know. It was just so weird. Like I was expecting something else, like a little bit more flowing, for when they're riding the motorbike in England, and it was just so.
Weird thing is, I didn't even notice. I mean, I noticed the music, but I just noticed the music as music. I didn't, you know, for me it flowed.
It was fine. I have seen this episode 5 times now since it aired. And this goes for, one, I'll tell you what I dislike. First thing I dislike is I dislike watching it on BBC America. I don't like the commercials. It's obviously not meant to be watched with commercials. It's just god-awful.
I watch it on BBC America on demand, so I can fast forward through all the commercials.
I'll say this. This was the first time ever, the Bells of St. John, that I saw with commercials. And my jaw was dropping right and left when they chose to cut things to the commercial. It's just so jarring. It takes you out of the moment. I was lucky that I saw it before I went out to Geek Spur with Drew to see it on their screen. But I have to agree with Drew. I don't know how people do it. I honestly don't know how people do it. I guess they're DVRing it and things like that, and they're fast forwarding through the commercials. But they take you right out of some of those moments, and they're choosing awkward times to cut. It's not well done at all.
Yeah, it's really not. So I watched it, and immediately, having gotten my legally obtained copy of it, I watched it the second time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I watched a review for this, and then of course we watched it before Rings of Cotton. So 4 or 5 times. So I've watched it, and it's given me. It's one of those things that first time I watch the show, I want to watch it and just kind of absorb it and like it and have fun with it, and then start looking at bits and pieces of it for the review. Other things I didn't like. You didn't like the music. I didn't like how the music was balanced with the sound. It's a little loud in some places, and my same complaint will happen with Rings of Cotton too. And then there was some weird stuff with the cup. Her cup, her cup of coffee or tea or whatever it was that they have. I like the idea of her having it. The problem is there is no conceivable way in which she moves that there's any splashed everywhere. So we never see it splash, and that's not a big deal. Except that after that scene ends, she takes a sip, and I don't believe the sip. Like the sip is the sip is kind of like, oh, sure, there's tea in here, and then she puts it down and it's silent. So I found some of the. I was actually distracted. It's pulled out. My complaints for the bells of St. John are very minimal when they're driving on the motorcycle. You know, obviously they're not driving a motorcycle because you can see the cameraman sitting on top of the truck filming down on them in the reflection of both of their helmets. And I was like, oh, that's, yeah.
Well, one thing I did notice that I would consider a production mistake is that after he takes the motorbike out, the doors are clearly open, and then they cut away to something else, and they cut back, the doors are shut.
Yeah.
And to me, that one just screamed at me. It was like,
continuity person, what's up?
yeah.
I think when you're dealing with a scene where you have that many people,
Yeah,
and it's like, sure, we don't know. The doctor just snapped his fingers and we didn't see it in close.
Now,
like, I'm willing to forgive that.
A cool question. This is something I'm not sure if I noticed correctly or not, but is the lock gone from the TARDIS door?
I don't think I noticed.
Well, it's.
I know on the
I
back
remember
side
it
it's still there, but
I don't remember when she was trying to in the second
and I
one.
don't remember seeing a lock on the door. It's something I'm gonna have to go back and track, but I was just seeing if either one of you noticed that. 'Cause
Well,
I want to say that I think the lock's missing, or it's not there anymore.
that would be something worth looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, so other things. Other things. All right, so your soul gets taken away from the Wi-Fi. I think it's a really just the main concept of the show.
Yeah.
They didn't really focus. I mean, it was like really, let's face it, we kind of wanted to spend more time with Clara. I had a problem with, and this is again, just a niggling complaint, is that if you're lost, you don't know where you are. The problem is behind them is still their house or their so-and-so, and I was like, come on, just show their faces and have a blank background, because everyone still had the backgrounds that they had in that.
Kind of like in
Idiot Lantern.
Yeah.
The Idiot Lantern, and there's a lot of comparisons into the Idiot Lantern, and I really, really like the Idiot Lantern. I really like the story, but for completely different reasons. This one is definitely a more fun and more up one. Oh, yes, after Robo Slowness. Obviously, we're dealing with spoilers here. I really have a problem with, it is a trope that happens in sci-fi, when if you think it's something, and it turns out to be something else, like you're really a person. No, you're a robot. And the moment they realize it's a robot, the robot starts behaving like a robot, where previously they were behaving like a human being. So the doctor's making jokes, and he's poking people in the nose, but the moment he shows off as being a spoonhead, he starts reacting like this.
Well, the reason why I thought that was because he was being activated. He was being used.
Oh, so
they were changing. You know, he's going from camouflage mode to the mode that it needed to be in. Because I thought the same thing, but then it seems like it only happens once it starts being more of in my opinion, a node.
Yeah, well, after he goes to change, he's holding the master control, and it just, it's still a family show. I get it. We're supposed to realize it's a robot. It's just one of those things. I don't have a lot to. I know it sounds like I have a lot to complain about, but I really don't. It's just I really liked so much of the show that it's almost easier to talk about the things I didn't like about it because it takes up less time.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump to some questions I have for you guys.
Sure.
That I want to see if you guys can answer. Not that I have answers for these questions. I have my own ideas for these. The first big one, the woman in the shop. Who is she? Is she a former companion, River, someone new, clear herself at an older age so she might not recognize herself? Who do you think the woman in the shop was that gave Clara the doctor's number?
I want to think it's Sally Sparrow.
And you're not the only one. A lot of people have said.
But also, it could be Rose. It could be like anyone at this point. But I don't know. I just have that one little thing just going. Maybe it's Sally Sparrow. Maybe we'll see her again. Not even just like small, not like for a whole episode or anything, but just like a small cameo.
No, a lot of people have wondered if it isn't Sally, because she's the one that does have a shop.
While I would like to see it be Sally, I think as far as exposition is concerned, unless she's going to be a major part of that story arc, it would be. That part seems like it would play too much of an important part in what's happening in the mystery of the story for her to just simply appear.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I would love to see her back. Um,
And that's the only reason why I was like, I hope it's Sally Sparrow because I just want to see her back.
Sure, and it makes sense. It's a Moffat episode. It's Blink. You know, she said that she would do it anytime that anyone asked her to do it. She said her schedule allows. I think it's more likely that it's going to either be someone we haven't seen before, and or River or Rose. River seems to be the easiest choice.
Yeah.
Knowing that, or it being heavily rumored that River will be back in the last episode. However, it makes more sense with Rose. We know Rose is coming back for the 50th. No, actually, I take that back. I think it makes more sense that it would be River.
I think it makes more sense to be River
Yeah.
too, just because I don't think we're going to see Rose until the 50th.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah, I'm seeing somebody else. Clara as an adult is possible, because she did say woman. I don't know which woman she said woman. It would be very cool if it would turned out to be Clara or Clara's mother, but I think Clara would recognize herself or her mother in her old age. I just think that's getting too weird. So.
Let's see. I was going to ask you who the client was, but of course we find out who the client is, which I was very excited about, the Great Intelligence again, which makes me hope that we are going to get Yetis at some point.
Yes, I would be very excited. I really, because I think we mentioned this with the Snowmen, Richard Grant didn't do a whole lot, so it's nice to see him again.
Yeah.
Is he going to be the big bad, or the Great Intelligence going to be the big bad for the entirety of the season? It's possible. Not for the entire. I like it.
I think it depends on how long we have Mamba for, which we'll talk about a little later.
Sure.
And okay, she went from having no computer skills to having tons of computer skills. Do you think this is something that is the reason why she was able to hack the dialects, or do you think it's going to be something else we're going to have to wait and see about?
I don't know. I don't think you can make a guess at that.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things this episode did more than anything else was drive us all into a predictive
because at first
frenzy.
she goes, Osmond? And she's like, who's that?
Yeah.
And then she does make the Osmond comment later on in the
Yeah.
episode when she's creating an account.
Oswald for the win. Oswin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it because and I'll say a few things.
Oh no, there's far more things.
No, I mean questions
Yes.
I wanted.
Okay.
I wanted to ask. Well, I'll throw some stuff. I thought it was interesting that they asked Doctor Who 3 times. Specifically
Say that
3
again.
times.
Yeah.
I did like the return of the Jamie Dodgers.
Yes, that was appropriate. I brought Jamie
Yeah.
Dodgers too. Thank you, G.W. Rogers, for the Jamie Dodgers. They were quickly taken from me.
And it was also nice to see Unit again.
What's that?
It was nice to see Unit again. Not only Unit, but Unit with the Great Intelligence, because
Yeah.
Unit does have a history with the Great Intelligence.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And that was so slight that it could have been anybody, and it was really nice that it was Unit.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about the first episode?
2 more things.
Yeah. Okay.
One, the numbers. So we have looking at Clara's 101 Places to See.
Yeah.
And I'm saying Clara's because we didn't, at this point in time, we don't know whose book it originally was.
Yeah.
We do, but we wouldn't have at the moment. Looking through all her ages that she crosses out, they crossed out the age of 16 and 23. Both of those were missing.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I wouldn't have drawn too much connection to that. It could very easily be she was gone for a year. But then we have her typing in the "Run, you clever boy, and remember" being the code, passcode.
1, 2, 3.
And then she'll 1, 2, 3, but she goes to hit 3 and instead hits 4.
Mhm.
So, okay, this again could be a red herring. Totally, it's like 23 was crossed out. 2 and 3 couldn't finish it. So there's that. I cannot remember the daughter that she's taking care of.
Angie.
Angie's going to stay with
Hello?
Nina. And who did she have a crush on? Remember she called Rory Nina. Okay, so probably, I think it's probably not the case, but I thought there's a little connection there. And then there is a weird thing that I don't know if I liked or disliked, but it might be a little inclusion. She said that she wanted to travel and hadn't gotten. She stayed with that family for a week, and in that week the woman had died, and the doctor says, and you felt it to honor, to repay her debt.
Yeah.
That made no sense.
I think her mom was watching those kids or something. That's kind of what it made me feel like. That maybe her mother was those girls, like the girl and the boy's original like nanny or something. But that's just kind of how I took it when I watched it again, because I caught just like little things like that when I watched it the second time, because I've only seen it twice.
Gotcha.
And
Well, I mean, I saw it as like this. Something happened to their mother. And Claire was there when it happened. And she felt like she had to stay on to be the nanny, the motherly figure, but we don't know what that is.
Did the mother die maybe saving Clara?
I don't know.
Like, that would, like, see, the Doctor would be extrapolating a lot from that if that was the case. But anyway, so it was just a little thing. But other than that, really good episode. Oh, we didn't mention the purple jacket. What do you guys think of the purple jacket?
I like it.
Oh, I love his new outfit.
I
mean, it's weird. It almost feels like it has a very, I'm going to say it, a very Classic Who vibe to it. It feels like it's a mixture between the first Doctor and the second Doctor, somehow. I mean, I love the pocket watch that's going in the double vest. I mean, I love the entire outfit.
Oh, well, there's so many nods to Classic Who in this one. I mean, the jacket's very, it reminds me, well, the poster made it look like the Joker. Wasn't a big fan of that. But you've got the walk of Troughton. He's walking the tea shop, there's definitely kind of the odd look. There's definitely a lot of one moments. The motorcycle reminded me a lot of the Doctor Who movie. And the fact that motorcycle is in the garage came out of the garage from Doctor Who. So that's kind of cool. Maybe that was I don't want to go back and watch Enemy Within just to watch that. But so yeah, but there were some good nods to it. So I think it was an overall good episode.
So ready to move on to our second
I want
episode?
to rate the first episode.
Well, we
don't rate anymore?
Well, we've been rating the classic episodes. We've never really rated the new episodes. But yeah, we can go ahead and Derpy TARDIS this.
Give it a 4.
I agree.
I'd probably give it a 3.5. But no, it's a very strong 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it and I was like, doing a 3.5, 4, and the more I've watched it, I think the more I appreciated it. And I think it's in retrospect, what I felt is, and I think we talked about this, is I figured that as a piece of the puzzle, as an individual episode, it's not as great, but as a piece of the puzzle, I think people will look back on it and really appreciate it.
I have a feeling that, this is just me, I think 7B is meant to be watched as one giant episode.
Well, I think all of Moffat's run. When Moffat's done, we're going to go, hey, did you watch Moffat's run? Which is that? Seasons 5 through whatever.
Yeah, but no, this one really feels like pieces of a puzzle more so. I don't know, maybe that he's doing that on purpose because that's what we're expecting, but I just have this feeling that once we sit down and watch the whole thing, it's going to go seamlessly because, and this is going to lead into the rings, is that if you notice the time between the first episode and the second episode were right there. You know, it went from the point where she said, come back and ask me tomorrow. And we pick up basically at that point. But we get a couple of scenes of where the Doctor was between that moment to the next. But it has this real sort of, and we'll see if it carries on to the third episode, if we get it sort of bam, 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 the tighter chronology of the stories together.
Sure.
So, which is kind of how he handled the first 2 parts of his season. Originally with Smith, the 11th Hour and the Beast Below. It went from taking her with her nightgown to that second episode with her in the nightgown. So it has a real almost paralleling feel to it in that aspect.